Hello, everyone. A few weeks ago, people were really upset by USCIS. They published a new policy that seemed to say the U.S. Armed Forces members' children who were born overseas would not be U.S. citizens automatically at the time of birth. The next day, Kenneth Cuccinelli, the USCIS director, said this didn't impact military families. This isn't entirely true. I'm going to talk about this today. My name is Raluca Hanea. I have an office in Lawrenceville, Georgia, where I provide immigration, estate planning, and family law services. Nina Clear, my marketing and office manager, is here with me. And we thank you for all your likes, shares, and comments as they help others to see our videos.
Okay, so first, tell us what triggered this upset. I mean, it was an outrage across the internet. I saw everywhere.
Yes, on August 28th, USCIS issued an updated policy manual. In that, they redefined the term residence.
And how did it change?
This is specifically for people who are members of the military or government employees who work or reside outside the United States. Since 2004, USCIS policy was that the children born to these categories of people were considered to be residing in the United States.
Okay, because I've always heard, I know military bases are U.S. property is what I always thought. So if they were born in the U.S., even if they were outside the U.S., they're automatically a citizen, right?
That's right.
Okay, so what changed?
So the new policy changed the definition of residence to conform with the INA, which is the Immigration and Nationality Act.
Okay, and what does that mean?
It means that those who have children born in the United States, outside the United States, must comply with new requirements for proving or obtaining citizenship for their children.
And does that go into effect immediately?
No, it goes into effect on October 29, 2019.
And what do parents have to do after October 29th, 2019 in order to obtain citizenship for their children?
While each case is different, what USCIS says is that the parents must file an N-600K to obtain citizenship for any child that didn't obtain it through birth or while residing in the United States.
And does an N-600K give citizenship?
It is a form that is requesting a citizenship certificate for children living outside the United States whose parents are U.S. citizens.
So it sounds like the child's given citizenship automatically?
Well, you do need to provide proof for the relationship as well as meet other criteria. So I would review the USCIS website or talk to an immigration attorney about your individual circumstances.
So why did people get upset that this was impacting military families?
Well, USCIS specifically addressed military families in their policy update publication, and that is probably why the media and others picked up on it.
So can you break down for us who this would impact?
Sure. What USCIS said when they published the new policy is that this could impact people in three categories. First, their children born outside the U.S. to non-U.S. citizen parents and then adopted by U.S. citizens. Then there are children born to non-U.S. citizens who naturalized after the child was born. Or the third category is U.S. citizens who have a child but don't meet the U.S. citizen residence or physical presence requirements to transmit the citizenship when the child is born. While this would be a very small number of people in the military, it was determined this would impact about 100 children a year. USCIS said there had been conflicting information given, which could lead to confusion and discrepancies, and they wanted all the departments to be on the same page with this.
So why then did the director, Cuccinelli, come out and say, stop freaking out, everyone, this doesn't apply to military families? Has something in the policy changed to say that?
No, the policy remains the same, but as almost everyone who follows the news, they saw people were outraged. Our military, whom I very much appreciate, are sacrificing their lives, and now they're being told that their kids won't be citizens automatically. That is outrageous. This is confusing, but before this policy was issued, children born to U.S. citizen parents and sometimes even legal permanent residents were, even when born outside the U.S., were considered born within the U.S. for purposes of obtaining citizenship. And this policy now takes away that possibility. Also, they are now looking at the parents who become U.S. citizens and making sure that they meet residency requirements before the child was born.
What does that mean?
Well, generally, they have to have resided in U.S. for 5 years after becoming a citizen, 2 of which have to be after the age of 14. Again, in all our videos, we can only give very broad information. So I would recommend that you talk to an attorney about your specific circumstances.
So does this apply to members of the military and their children?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I've read recent news reports that many people are asking USCIS to not implement the policy. What do you think will happen?
That's true. Just this week, 50 House Democrats asked Mr. Cuccinelli not to implement this plan. However, since he is convinced, despite the language of the law, that this does not impact military families, I don't see him agreeing to their request. USCIS itself has said this will probably only impact about 24 military family, which also make you think, why would they come up with a policy that would impact just 22 military families?
24. And when USCIS talks, it's because they have a press person. And so even though Cuccinelli works for USCIS, you think they'd give out the same information.
Exactly.
They're not, right? So, yeah. And when it's 24, that's about 24 families, right?
Yes.
Okay. And House Democrats, I've read, have also introduced legislation to block the proposed changes, right?
That's right. But since Mitch McConnell has been blocking almost all votes on sensitive topics, this is unlikely that would pass through the Senate.
And we know in the past, we've talked about this, immigration policy law has to go through Congress.
That's right.
Right? You
cannot change the law just by interpreting it differently.
But President Trump has kind of gone around that and then been stopped because people sue him in court and he can't go forward because he's not following the right
way.
And
so the way it works, right?
Yeah. Good. So can you give us an idea of, how many immigrants are in the armed forces? So that might help people understand why the low numbers quoted by USCIS doesn't really seem realistic.
Yes, every year, 5,000 immigrants who are not yet citizens join the armed forces.
In the U.S., right? And then
yes.
What has happened in the past is if they had children born on a military base, those children will become a citizen.
Yes, because the base was considered U.S. soil.
Okay, but that's not going to happen under this new policy.
No. This seems to be, again, part of the president's plan to do away with birthright citizenship, as the President Trump said so many times.
And tell me what that means. Tell all of us what that means, even though we've covered it.
So if you are born in the U.S. or on soil that is considered the U.S., like any military base in the past, you were a citizen. And just to remind everyone, there are no such thing as anchor babies. So even if your child becomes a U.S. citizen, that does not help necessarily the parents with their citizenship status. And if there are any changes before this goes into effect, we will try to keep you updated. Thank you to everyone for watching. And if you need help with your immigration case, please call our office to schedule a consultation. We are always here to help. Thank you.